Welcome to the Jungle Discipleship School podcast. My name is David Small, and I'm going to be your host on this journey, wherever it takes us. And I'm coming to you guys today from a little hut in Burma at the Jungle Discipleship School campus. And I'm so thankful that you're with us. I'm thankful that you're along and that you're tuning in wherever this may find you. I hope you're well. And I hope the sun is shining on you. Our campus is transforming as we've decided to stay on this spot for another year. And it's just becoming really beautiful. And we're moving a little bit further into the jungle and to see some new buildings going up, and we're swapping out some tarp roofs for leaf roofs, which are way better. They're first of all, tarps are ugly, and second of all, the leaves are much cooler in the hot summer days, which it is right now. And so we're getting things going here at JDS, and it's just, I love being here. I love being on the campus. I love the things that we're building. And not only that, but I love what God is building in the lives of these students. And today, as I'm recording this, is the 6th of May. And we're only a couple of weeks away from graduating our first ever JDS class. So that's pretty exciting. And I'm so thankful for you guys that are either tuning in for the first time or have been along for this journey since we got it started over a year ago now. And it's going to be super exciting to have graduation. And I want to share a little bit more about graduation, but I'll do that a little bit later on. So just a couple housekeeping points. If you haven't tried JDS coffee yet, get some, order some, and we'll get that out to you as soon as we can while it's still fresh. It was just roasted not too long ago. So the closer to the roasting date, the better it is. And whole beans stay fresh longer and are better, especially if you toss them in the freezer or the fridge and just you grind them as you need them. But we live on coffee here, and we live on JDS coffee. And so we're thankful for Seeds of Hope coffee that provide us with our unique blend. And we'd love for you guys to taste it out. I'll be heading back shortly after graduation. I'll have a couple weeks in Chiang Mai, and then I'll be flying stateside. First to Denver. I spend a week with Restoring the Soul in Denver at Lakewood, and then I'll pop over to Phoenix down to see some dear friends in Phoenix, and then over to North Carolina, and then up to Oromocto Baptist Church, and I'll be speaking there at the end of June, the last Sunday in June. And super excited about that. I love the OBC congregation there, and they've been big supporters of JDS, and so it's going to be fun. I didn't get to go out there the last year, so it's going to be great to get out there this year and see everybody and share an update about JDS. And then after that, it's back to Ontario, and I'll be around Ontario for most of July and August, a couple little trips here and there. But I'm looking forward to connecting with everybody and having a meal together and speaking at some churches. And so right now, I haven't actually done my work to set dates for speaking schedules. But if you're listening to this and you want me to come speak at your church, just shoot me an email, and I'll see if I can make it happen. I'd love to connect with you and share the vision and the goals of JDS. Because, man, there's a lot happening, and we're busy, and God is doing great things, and it's just such an honor to be a part of it. And so, it's really cool. This last week, we taught on, I taught on grief, and what a powerful and hard and beautiful week it was as we walked through this subject of grieving and grief. We also spent some time thinking about parts and parts work, which comes from a therapy model called IFS, Internal Family Systems, and which I spoke about on the last podcast. But one of the components of IFS is this idea of managers, firefighters, and exiles. And, one of the things in my life that I've exiled is grief and grieving. And you kind of put it in prison and you say, hey, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to think about this. And so you put it away and you exile it. And if it ever starts to come out, the managers do their thing. They control it they try to control the situation or the environment with humor, with seriousness, with intensity, with different things that could be considered managers. And if that fails, then it is the firefighter's turn. And these are our addictions and compulsions and things like that are just trying to numb away the feelings so we don't have to deal with the exiles. And anyways, it's interesting to just kind of take an inventory of, hey, these are things in my life I've exiled, and grief being one of them, especially for me. It was an interesting week to talk about this subject of grief and grieving. And one of the things on the first day that I asked the students to do was write down on a piece of paper something that they've lost. We grieve things that we've lost. Grief has to do with loss, and we don't grieve stuff that we don't love. So grief only happens when love is present. If love is not present, then we don't really grieve. We may feel sympathy or empathy towards something, but we're not actually grieving the loss of something. So our students, they just wrote one word on a piece of paper, and I'll post this little video that we made on our social media. But they held up their piece of paper and just kind of named something that they've lost, and some of them were really interesting. One student, he wrote down my dreams. I've lost my ability to dream and have a dream for the future. And another student wrote down family dinners. And what a precious and hard and special and beautiful thing to say and to acknowledge, and just say, I love having dinner with my family. I love family dinner. And I've lost that. I'm due to the situation, due to the Burma Army, due to the conflict, having to run, I've lost that. And, these students, the prior week, we tried to have the students write a vision statement, a vision for their future. And some of the students really had a hard time with this, because a vision for your future requires you to kind of dream about what you would like your future to be. And in Burma, and like one of our students named, dreams have been stolen. And as we kind of unpacked this idea of a vision for your future and making a plan for your future, it was so hard for them to think like, hey, I've spent my whole life at war, on the run as an IDP, living in a refugee camp where I can barely survive. And I'm required to have everyone else hand me something. I cannot go and get something myself, lest I lose my UN citizenship or my UN ID number. And so having a dream, the ability to dream, man, it felt like such a luxury. It felt like such a Western concept, a luxurious Western concept, to just be able to say, like, man, what's your dream for the future? What do you want to, if you could do anything, what would you do? What would you be? If that's not something worth grieving, I don't know what is. It's it's just the reality of life here in Burma, and the reality of the students carrying immense amounts of grief, immense amounts of trauma with them, even more than I even can imagine or fathom. And and it's just, we've had a suicide attempt this year. I don't know if I've brought that up previously. I can't remember, but when we tried to get some help, it was right after a death of a loved one, and the student was really distraught. And tried to hang themselves. And I tried to get some help, and I reached out to different clinics and different organizations in Burma. And I said, hey, what do you do? Like, what is the next step for this guy? And basically the answer was always the same across the board. Just, once he's feeling better, then, watch him until he's feeling better. And once he's feeling better, then he can go on his way. And in Canada or America or in the West, you'd bring him to a hospital. He would be committed somewhere until the doctors say, yeah, okay, we've given you medication. We've given you a path and a process and a step-by-step plan for you to not harm yourself. And in Burma, that doesn't exist. In Burma, it's like, you're having a bad day, you kill yourself, you either succeed or you don't succeed. And if you don't succeed, then, you'll get over it and you carry on. But there's no resources to try to learn how to handle trauma or handle grief in a way, that just connects you to it and allows you to process it. And one thing that was interesting was a few weeks prior, we had studied trauma. And in the concept of trauma is you need to be healed of your trauma. And then as we got into grief, you don't need to be healed of your grief. And it's interesting to just think about those two things side by side for a minute, and just to think about, and I'm not only talking about people in Burma, but I'm talking to you as listeners who all guaranteed have a level of trauma in your life. And, your trauma needs attention and healing the same way a broken arm needs attention and healing. Grief doesn't need healing. Grief needs to be experienced and felt and walked through and held. And they're two separate things. And we often think like, I need to be healed of this feeling. I need to get rid of this feeling. But grief is not something to be rid of. It's actually something that we should embrace and try our best to hold on to and walk through. I had this idea as we were in the week of grief to make I called it the stations of grief, kind of, like the stations of the cross. Sometimes at Christmas, they would do the Advent stations of the cross kind of deal. Or maybe it's Easter. But anyways, I thought, okay, I'm going to make the stations of grief. And so we talked in our lessons in our lectures, we talked about the 5 stages of grief. And so I made 5 different stations around our campus. And on Thursday, we had no classes, but the students just took their time and moved at their own pace through the different stations. And the first station was denial. And earlier in the week, I had the students make paper mache masks. And then at the denial station, they got to carve out their mask the way they wanted it and then paint it kind of like a Two-Face, from Batman, a Two-Face painting of their mask. And the idea being is like, hey, we deny our feelings. We deny that we're feeling something, and we wear these masks. And anyways, it was just a cool station for them to be able to carve out a mask. And now they all have these masks, and sometimes they're sitting in class this week wearing their masks. And anyway, entertaining for sure. But and then the second station after the mask painting is the anger station. And the second stage in the stages of grief is anger. And so I decided I would make a smash house. And there are these places, I remember seeing one in Lethbridge a couple of years ago where it was like literally a place where you could go and you pay them some money just to go in and like smash plates and glasses and things like that. And I remembered that and I thought, okay, well, let's build our own smash house. And so the first thing we did is I gave each student a mug. I had bought these mugs for maybe like 50 cents each. And they were just plain white coffee mugs. And the students got to write on the coffee mugs everything that they were angry about. The Burma army stealing lives from them, stealing land from them, stealing dreams from them. And they got to write it all out on these coffee mugs. And then they put their mugs into a plastic bag and they smashed it over a rock. And then I had all these boxes that I had been collecting, and I wrapped the boxes up in bubble wrap. And then they had this like beating stick, a bamboo beating stick, and they would just go to town 1-2 minutes of just nonstop beating like these boxes. And then I had some old tiles that I found at a discount shop, and there was like 100 tiles for like $20. And I bought these 100 tiles, and our students could then just smash these tiles. And anyways, it was so fascinating to watch them at this anger station, because it was just this like, this is totally wrong. This is totally not right to smash this stuff. And are you sure you want me to do this? Is this really okay? But then after like 5 or 6 seconds in on the box beating smashing session, you could just see them like slide into this space of like, I just want to get this feeling out. I want to get this aggression out. And, John Eldridge talks about taking a wooden spoon or a spatula, going to the garage and beating pillows and garbage cans and stuff like that. And that it's actually a healthy method of releasing anger. And we have to get it out somehow. Otherwise, it will get itself out in other ways that maybe we're not so in control of. And so afterwards, they picked up all the broken, smashed pieces of coffee mug and tile, and they made these wind chimes out of their smashed pieces. And anyways, just to hear the wind blowing and hearing a transformation of something kind of beautiful coming out of anger was actually a really cool thing. The third station they went to was the station of bargaining. And bargaining, is we have these if only statements. If only I had done this. If only I had been there. If only that had been different. Is kind of how the bargaining station works. And just as a side note, one of the ways I in the beginning, I always thought, okay, bargaining, what a dumb station. And it was these Jedi Knights at Restoring the Soul in Denver that helped me kind of work through this in my own life. But I always thought bargaining is dumb. Like I've had many friends die, and I've never once felt like it should have been me. And I kind of felt like bargaining was, oh, I would change my place for them to be able to stay alive and I would die so that they could be alive. And, I've always felt their death a horrible tragedy, but I've never felt like, okay, I need to change my life for theirs. And one of the things that was interesting for me as I was in counseling and learning about grief, and especially this bargaining stage, is that I would start to arrange for the future of my friends so that they would not end up dead, so that they would not end up on the front lines. And the idea is kind of like if you use these if only statements, you would say, if only my friend got a job in Thailand, he wouldn't die on the front lines. And then I don't have to deal with grief. And so you're bargaining, but you're kind of like preemptively bargaining. It's not a post bargaining where you're trying to say like, if only I did this, I could get this person back, or that person wouldn't have died. But it's a preemptive arranging and manipulating of a scenario or a person's life to arrange for your own feeling of protection based on your grief and your grieving. Very fascinating. But anyways, we can tie ourselves up in knots with these if only statements. And it's like this mental gymnastics. And so for the third station, I had them tying knots. I had them making friendship bracelets, and they spent some time just to think about their lost loved one, and the if only statements that they may have thought or felt, and they tied knots, and we made these friendship bracelets. This is like flashbacks to Bird River Bible Camp in my youth in Manitoba, but where we made these friendship bracelets, and I had to relearn how to do it. But anyways, we made these cool friendship bracelets, and the idea was that we tie knots because we tie ourselves up in knots with these statements, but we make a physical friendship bracelet that we would say at the end, I made this in love for you, my friend. And then they tie them on their wrist or their ankles, and they're wearing these. All of our students are now wearing these very flashy, beautiful little bracelets. So that was station 3. Station 4 is depression. And depression can feel like a heavy blanket on us, and it takes our energy away. We don't want to get out of bed. And so what I did was I took a couple old bed sheets, and I cut them into squares and sewed up 3 sides of the bed sheet. And then at the station, the students put a scoop of sand, which kind of represents the, like putting sand onto a coffin or putting dirt onto a grave, like, the earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust kind of deal. But also they put their weight, their sand weight into the square, but they also got to design and draw on the sheet, on the bed sheet. And then they sewed it shut. And then we sewed all of our squares together into a big quilt. And the idea being, depression, and our little square of depression can feel really heavy, but we sew it together into the community, and we don't deal with our depression on our own, but we end up with dealing with and living with and carrying our depression, but as part of a knitted family and a knitted community, and we carry it all together, and we each support each other in the heaviness that we're feeling. And so we have a heavy blanket that we've built now at JDS. So if you're an anxious sleeper and you come to JDS, you can use our heavy blanket that we've created as part of our depression station number 4. And then finally, station number 5, acceptance. And this was actually a really beautiful little station, but and some of the students said it was their favorite one, which surprised me. But I had the students print out and laminate a photo of their loved one. And then I gave each student a flower pot about 12 inches deep. And they got to design the outside of the flower pot however they wanted. Some wrote quotes, some wrote someone's name on it, some drew pictures. They taped or stuck a bamboo stick with their friend's photo into the flower pot after they filled it with earth. And then they each planted 3 or 4 sunflower seeds. And I kind of felt like and thought like, this is actually maybe not the right season to be growing sunflower seed as we head into rainy season. But this was only like maybe 4 days ago. And already we've got these beautiful sprouts, like an inch above the soil, of these sunflowers that have just exploded out of these pots. And the idea being like acceptance and new life come together. And as we accept and we kind of talk about just relaxing into the acceptance of our grief, we slowly can get back to life, and new life can form and come. And so those were our 5 stages of grief. One of the things we talked about was waves of sadness. And I showed some videos of the ocean, and I remember being in Hawaii many, many years ago, back in the 90s. And it was my first time really ever playing in big ocean waves. And I just remember the first time this wave, it like picked me up off of my feet and curled me over and body slammed me into the ground and dragged me tumbling upside down, over, sideways, scraping along the shore, like just merciless as it dragged me and washed me up to the shore. And it just blew me away, the strength of these waves. And I said so I showed some videos from YouTube like that. And I just said, like, this is what grief feels like, is just this crashing of wave after wave after wave after wave. And over time, the space between waves gets a little bit bigger, that you have enough time to kind of get up and get your bearings and get a deep breath in you before the next wave crashes on you. And then slowly you'll have enough time to kind of get your bearings and brace yourself for the next wave, because it's coming, and then it'll crash over you. And then you get these kind of just gentle rollers instead of these breaking waves. And then you'll end up with a calm ocean as you end up at the stage of acceptance. And I showed these video clips of just the beautiful, calm ocean. And every so often in the calm ocean, you get this one rogue or random wave. And I just said to the students, like, hey, there are times where I'll be driving, and this happened not too long ago. I was driving in Chiang Mai. I came up to a red light. I stopped on my motorcycle. And in Thailand, they have these countdowns at the light, so you can see, okay, I've got 90 seconds until the light turns green. And I just sat there, and all of a sudden, I just had this wave of sadness and thought, and was thinking of my friend Daichi, who had died a year and a bit ago. And I thought, wow, where did this come from? Like, I hadn't been thinking about him. There's nothing really at this intersection that reminds me of him. I don't really know where this came from, but that's just how it works. It's just that every so often in the ocean, there will just be this random wave that'll just wash over you. And it's okay. It's okay to feel that. It's okay to hold that. It's okay to just ride that wave. And then you just carry on. The light will turn green and you keep moving. And anyways, beautiful week as we talked about grieving. And the idea with these stations was not that, the students move through 5 stations in 2 hours and then they are suddenly cured of all their depression. Depression can take months or years to fully work through these different stages. And we don't work through the stages of grief in a sequential order. We work through them at random times and sometimes revisiting different stages, but it can take years to process grief. And the idea with the stations was to give a tangible feeling and memory to the station, and just to give them an experience of saying, here's something that you can remember for your future, and something that you can recreate in your future to just help you process and understand how you're feeling. And anyway, so just a cool way. It was a very hard week. We had a lot of stuff going on. There seemed to be a lot against this week. And I actually sent out a prayer request to our prayer warriors. If you go to junglediscipleshipschool.com/prayer, you can send us a prayer request, or you can sign up to be a prayer warrior for us. But I had sent out a prayer request. And as the week went on, man, I just felt covered in prayer. And I'm just so thankful for that, because there was so much going on. There was so much attack. There was so much against us as the week was progressing that I just needed all the support that I could get. And I got it from you guys. And so I'm really thankful for that. We are a few weeks away. We're having meetings this week about, what is your next step after graduation? There's some logistics that are involved in moving people after graduation. And also, what is your plan for next year? And a lot of the students' answer is like, I have no idea. I don't know what to do. Some of them say like, I'll just go back and sit in the refugee camp. And it's just such a sad thing, but it's the reality of life. And anyway, so we've been working through some of that. And as I was thinking a couple of months ago, I was thinking about like, what are the classes that is there a class I need to change or add, or a schedule change that I need to make so that I can make sure that I've given the students the lessons and the material that they really need to get. And so I asked myself, what are the things that I for sure want the students to know for sure 100% when they leave JDS. And one of those things that came to my mind was the love of God. They need to know without a doubt that God loves them, that God is nuts and crazy about them. And not only does he love them, but he actually likes them too. He likes who they are. He likes their heart. And so I thought, okay, so the last block of teaching that we're going to do, which will be next week, is going to be on the love of God. And we'll look at some of the academic side of, the different types of love and the different kinds of love. But the real takeaway that I want them to have is that beyond a doubt, whatever else you believe about God, about Christianity, whatever else you've learned, I want you to leave here knowing that God loves you. He really, really, really loves you. And in reality, that's what changes our hearts, is the love of God. And I've seen it in these students, and I've seen it in so many of our rangers at FBR, that it's not money, it's not showing up every day, it's love that changes and breaks down the walls. I've seen it in teenagers that I've worked with in North America. You want to have access to your teen's heart. It's love that's going to allow you the access. Love is the key. And, 1 John, it says, God is love. And there's no other deity, there's no other world religion where the deity claims to be love incarnate. That the God of that religion, whether it's Buddhism, whether it's animism, whether it's Islam, where that God says, I am the embodiment of love, and everything that I do flows out of love. And it's pretty interesting to think about that. And one of the things that I've been wrestling with here at JDS is it's not trying to convince somebody of Christianity. Not all of our students are Christians. We have Buddhist students, we have animist students, we have atheist students. And the idea is you come here and you give God an opportunity to say, is this real or not real? And so it's not my job to say, okay, God over Buddhism, God over Islam, God over this, God over that. My religion is better. Because that's the surest way to lose these guys. Like, they will not respond to that. But what is interesting and what I've actually realized is the battle is not Christianity versus another religion, but in reality, it's Christianity versus culture. It's Christianity versus the culture here in Buddhism, the culture of Karenni State, the culture of Karen State, the culture of Burma, and even the culture of Canada and America. Like, it's not Christianity versus other world religions. It's Christianity versus the culture of the West. That's what you're really challenged to fight against. And the hard part is that culture will give you the illusion of loving you. Culture will give you the illusion of love and give you the illusion of being loving. Oh, let's accept everybody. Let's let everybody's truth be equal. Let's let everybody feel nice about themselves. You can be whatever you want to be and say, like, we just want to accept and be, and we claim that this is loving when in reality it's totally not loving. It's totally evil. But we've come against a cultural illusion of love. The gay pride movement has claimed this idea of love wins. And yeah, they're actually right. Love does win, but not the kind of love that you're thinking of. The kind of love that 1 John is talking about, where it says, love is God, God is love. That's who's going to win. God is going to win. The love of God is going to win. Not progressive left-wing love. Not cultural love. That's not going to win, but we really are fighting against this idea. And so, I came back to this concept as I was preparing for my classes next week on love and thinking like, okay, God is love. No other world religion claims to be love in the embodiment of love. Good. That's easy for me to teach about. But then I thought, okay, but their culture claims to love them. And this is a hard thing to teach against. But you can pray for me and pray for us as we study the love of God starting next week. The rest of this week is we've got a guest teacher coming in today, and the rest of this week is talking about nation building and politics and these kind of Burma specific topics from a Burma scholar and Burma teacher. So we're very lucky to have them come this week. But yeah, I'm prepping for my material for next week. And then next week we're teaching our final block of teaching. And then we get to graduation. And graduation, I had this feeling not too long ago about celebration. And, as I talk about culture, I've just been thinking a lot about culture lately, especially because we kind of are in the middle of culture wars. Canada, we just had this election, and a lot of it has to do with, and a lot of people's vote is based on, is our culture moving the right direction or the wrong direction? and we kind of have these culture wars going on right now. And I've been thinking about culture and what in our culture do we celebrate, and what in our culture, and do we have a culture of celebration within the church that we're active in, and what rituals do we have? And graduation is a time of ritual and celebration. And as I thought about graduation, I just kept having this word come to mind, like carnival. The word was like a carnival, a festive time. I don't want to have a stuffy, boring graduation. I've been at Burmese graduations that are so painful. Like they are just so long and boring and hard to get through. And so I thought, I don't want, okay, yeah, we're going to have some speeches. We're going to do the ritual. Each student will be called by name and they'll come up and they'll accept their diploma or whatever we're calling it, certificate. And get a handshake, good on you. But the reality is we're here, and the graduation is we're transitioning and celebrating the completion of JDS. And we're celebrating two things in my mind. One is we're celebrating the students that have managed to stick it out and stay here right till the very end. And the work and the things that they've done and the steps that they've taken and just the journey that they've had. Our kind of motto is joy in the journey and peace in the process. And actually we got some special JDS shirts made with our motto on the back of the shirt, joy in the journey, peace in the process. And so we want to celebrate them and all that they've done. But then we also want to celebrate, and this is maybe a selfish thing, we want to celebrate the fact that JDS is actually a thing. We want to celebrate you guys as listeners, as prayers, as supporters, as encouragers. We want to celebrate just the fact that we're here. We did it. We've got something done. We've graduated a class. Like that's more than I could have imagined. And, there's so many students that I think didn't attend JDS 1 because they thought, I don't think this thing's actually going to happen. And there were times where I actually thought like, oh my goodness, is this a total mistake? Is this actually going to happen? And the fact that we're here 2 weeks from the end and looking forward to JDS 2 already is just incredible. And God has done so much and provided so much. God has provided so much through you guys. And I'm so thankful for it, and it needs to be celebrated. And so we're going to have our morning ceremony. We've invited some leaders. We're going to have some speeches, but JDS is not a normal school, and this will not be a normal graduation. And so we're going to disintegrate our graduation ceremony into a carnival, and we're going to have different activities and stations. And I've got a few surprises up my sleeve, and you're going to have to tune into JDS TV to check those out and actually see what graduation looks like. But I just want it to be a festival of celebration, of celebrating God, of celebrating you guys as faithful supporters of JDS, and celebrating our students who have done such an amazing job. So I'm really excited about graduation, and I'm excited to just, to celebrate JDS 1. We're almost there, and it's so cool. As I plan to come back this summer, I'm hoping to record a bunch of podcast interviews and get a bit more regular on getting some podcast episodes out to you guys. The last couple months have been a bit sporadic. I apologize for that, but thanks for sticking with us. Thanks for sharing it with friends. I appreciate that. And it's just great as we can grow the podcast, as we can grow our newsletter, as we can grow our social media. It just helps us expand our donor base. It helps us expand our prayer warriors list. And so anytime you have an opportunity to share a podcast episode or a JDS TV episode, it helps us in the long run. And so, if you can't donate financially, you can be a advocate for us. And we're really thankful for all of you guys. And so, that's it from JDS this week. And so thankful for you guys. Thankful that you're with us and you're following along. You're learning with us and praying with us. And you guys are working hard at your jobs and you're giving so generously a portion of that to JDS, and what God is doing here. And so that is just, I'm so humbled by that. And I'm so thankful for that. And yeah, I just really want to pray a blessing over you guys for that. But yeah, get in touch and let us know if we can connect over the summer. And if you know anybody looking for an awesome opportunity to be a part of a credible teaching, I've been praying about this lately, and I've been giving it to Jesus because, there's a verse that says, give all your worries and cares to God because he cares about you. And, God cares more about JDS than I do. And I have to remind myself of that. And that's so beautiful to think about. God actually cares more about JDS 2 than I do. And the teachers that are going to be here, and my health, my rest, my ability to rest and not have to teach every class, God cares about that stuff. And so I just been giving the staff of JDS 2 over to God lately and just saying, yeah, I trust you, Jesus. You'll bring us the right staff and the right people. I'll have peace about it. And I just think there is so many cool things that we can do here. I want to start a youth group, not for JDS, but for the IDP camp. Right over the mountain from us are 3,000 IDPs. And there's all these young people in this IDP camp that are just kind of roaming around and just surviving. And I thought, how cool would it be if JDS can offer a youth group for the young people in this IDP camp once a week? Our students can help lead it, but I'd love a youth pastor to come and be a part of our discipleship staff and be primarily responsible for leading a youth group in this IDP camp. And some of our students said to me the other day, man, I just really wish I had somebody who could sit down with me and teach me the basics of guitar, of piano, because I know how to play, but I've never had the foundation. And so I don't know where to go from here. And so to have a music and a worship teacher come and be able to work with our students, I just think it'd be so amazing. And then to have Bible teachers and married couples and young families here with their kids to say, hey, we want to be involved in your life and a part of your life. And I just think it's such a cool opportunity. And I think JDS is just getting started. And I think God's got big plans. And I think we're going to end up training up a generation of missionaries that go back into Burma. And with your help, we're going to help fund a generation of missionaries that go all across Burma and bring a new gospel, a fresh gospel, a gospel of love, real love, into Burma that is going to change Burma and start a revival here. And so we're just getting started. Stick with us. Love you guys.